Hi, everyone. It's Andrea Quagenti, and I'm here with Angela Young and Cynthia Turner, talking about our favorite subject again on call number 12 for the Self-Directed Education group on Facebook. Hi.
Hi. Yay, happy to be here again.
Yeah, so last week's call, we had to move from Tuesday to Saturday. So we just actually spoke a couple days ago, which was a really awesome call. Call 11 was like for me, it was like a lot of processing. And I think that has like to do with the solar eclipse, and there was kind of a lot happening. So if anyone's interested in learning. And then what we also did, which I thought was great. So thank you, Angela. So Angela and I both talked about two different ways to just to recap, two different ways to self reflect and to discover false beliefs. And then replace those with things that work better for us. So I finally found the two Bashar ones and I posted those, and I liked yours as well. So thank you. It's these self reflection tools, self healing. I think they're all, there's a lot out there, and yeah, I'm, so glad that you and I have both found ones that work for us and that we're, kind of committed to this path for ourselves and our children and, the people that will interact with us, especially with, where you're actually working at a Sudbury school. So thank you.
Hey. Yeah, I think it's so cool to see how it interrelates through different avenues. Like I love the Bashar world, and over time of just being in the spiritual community and doing research about all avenues, Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, these people, it's like the core message is all the same. It's just which mouth is it coming out of? To me, that's always really validating. It's like, oh wow, so the information is at its core the same. Yeah, it makes me feel like it's just so much more true.
Yeah, I find that as well. My path was I went from spirit communication, like communicating with passed over loved ones, and then I went into angels and guides, and so my experience has been a lot of with this, with my on my spiritual path, kind of like a lot of metaphysical things. But even if I compare, my favorite angel teachers to Bashar, to I really like Hay House. So some of those teachers, and you're right, it's all about worthiness and kind of knowing who we are as spiritual beings, and living an authentic life and playing out our theme, our particular theme. Um, I do believe everything is a learning experience, and we're all learning continuously forever. And all of these experiences, allow us to grow and expand. And so, um, and that's what's happening now. Are people becoming more conscious, more confident, more worthy, more of our true selves? And I think big picture, it's just like a super awesome time to be alive and experience this kind of transformational time.
Totally. Yay. I really feel that. It's interesting because I think we are seeing the beginning of the new age, as woo as that sounds. Like, I really think that that's what's happening. And it's happening subtly within everyone's living rooms as we're all starting to be able to integrate more of, um, I guess, our true selves, being able to look at the beliefs we're holding, being able to question the thoughts that we're experiencing, to really feel the emotions that are coursing through us, and to shift our um, eons of conditioning that is no longer helpful. Within my experience, um, I have noticed that this is happening worldwide. Um, this is happening, like, anyone that I talk to, basically. Sometimes I'm afraid to express, like, what I'm going through, or I guess the fear is that someone's going to think I'm crazy if I talk about, like, how I'm really feeling. When I've leaned into that and sort of just like opened up in a vulnerable way, I've found that almost everyone is going through this in a certain way. Like maybe it's not exactly my way. Maybe they're not as into aliens as I am or something like that. But in their own way, they're like experiencing very similar things. Whether it's just world events, a lot of times are helping to really crack people open into examining ourselves. I think the next generation too, this is really exciting because I am with kids all day long, whether they're my own kids or other people's kids. There is a huge trend with the younger generation, and that is to be very aware of psychology. Whether now that doesn't always look like this sort of wellness, spirituality, or or let's say mental health that we might strive for as adults. In the young gen, it's looking a lot like diagnoses, being aware of problems, being aware of um, dysfunction or whatever. But regardless, nonetheless, I don't think it's a problem. What's happening is the youth are becoming very much aware of what's happening internally, and maybe they're not processing that um, in a way that's totally helpful yet, but I just trust their path. I think that's perfect for them right now. I'm just wondering, I guess, sort of like a open question, maybe not directly for you, Andrea, but if any other parents have also experienced this trend or seen this trend, I'm just open to your thoughts on that subject too.
Yeah, I think that it's an increased sensitivity, an increase of being in the present moment, because when you're present and focused, you're aware and conscious of how we're feeling. Um, so I think that a lot of children are more sensitive, they're more emotional, they're more expressive, they're more creative, they're more joyful. So I think that well, I know that these heightened sensitivities are really a gift of creativity and a gift of like, no, that old way doesn't work. A lot of the children, like if you get into some of like I know Doreen Virtue is controversial, but she was one of the first people years ago, like in the 70s, talking about indigos and rainbow children and crystals. And I resonated with that material, and I still do. Um, so just I think that some people in my generation, I was born in the 70s, maybe 80s, children were just more, seemed maybe more, some children, not me, just seemed more agreeable. Oh, okay, this is life, this is what I have to do. Where now, not so many are able to be so agreeable, and a lot of it might surface as geez, a number of things. But they're just sensitive to being out of alignment. So their inner compass is very well tuned. And when they're uncomfortable, they're going to express it. And like, as we know, one of our big themes is looking at being out of alignment as a gift for healing and for greater expansion. So if we look at it that way, that the diagnosis, um, the neurodiversity, that all of those are there's a gift to each of them. Then it's kind of shifting into a problem, into a revolution.
Yeah. So I apologize. So I was listening and then I muted myself for a second because I heard my son crying downstairs. I was just making sure that my partner was with him. I was like, wait, yeah, he's here. But I was concerned for a second. I'm like, what is going on? So yeah, I think you're dead on. I think a lot of students, so I use the word students because I'm so used to working at a school, but a lot of children uh, who come now, like I think we see this a lot with like neurodiversity nowadays, where a lot of kids who have Like the coding is just a little bit different. And that they're like canaries in the coal mine. I heard that phrase one time, where it's just not going to work with the regular school system. There's nothing that we're going to be able to do to make it work. And that's not a problem. It's actually notifying us that it is time to change the school system. I do want to chat about the ways that, because a lot of times really sensitive and empathic children, there's two ways that you can express uh not resonating with something. It's like one is what you stated, which is like direct rebellion. It's like, hey, this is not going to work. I'm not just going to go with the program. I'm going to be stubborn. I'm going to express this. But there's another side. There's another side with children who are like deeply sensitive and maybe a little bit like shy and have a tendency to put everything internal rather than like projected outwards. Then sometimes that can look a lot like compliance. It can look like the child who strives really hard to do everything perfect, but inside is like crippled, and inside is feeling all the anxiety and takes on all of these, becomes mentally unhealthy, basically, like through stress, through having low self-esteem, through believing that the only thing that makes them worthy is their achievements or that grade that they get, approval from their parents. Now, this is not necessarily a sign that the child is not sensitive. It's a sign that the child is very sensitive, is just introverted, has a projection inwards rather than outwards. Typically, what that path will end up looking like is burnout by the end, and then self-discovery at that point, sort of like a midlife crisis, but you're like a teen or like in your 20s, you know? Who it can play out many ways. Maybe it plays out as a midlife crisis, like you never go through that realization until you're older. But a lot of times it happens in the late teen years or the 20s, which is hard on children because those are very impactful years of your life, like when you're creating your life, or they can be. Look, we can, life's magic, and there's never too late. You can start at any point. It's just that those years are like the college years and stuff like that. So that can be challenging. However, I think that with those understandings, this is like my story. This is not, it's not the end all be all, because as you integrate everything that you couldn't process as a child, as you start to become aware of it and how it made you feel and how it made you act, how it made you respond, that then becomes your gift, because you can use that sort of like a college degree in and of itself. It's a degree in psychology, basically. It's like, wow, this is not just conceptual to me. Like I can see directly how this played out with me. And then you have a certain level of understanding and compassion for others who have gone through the same thing. That's very like tactile, very yeah. So
Yay, awesome. Just thinking about my own past, I think I bounced between being rebellious and then either that or overachieving. And at one point, I was kind of both. I was like the rebel at night, but during the day, I was the overachiever. And for me, that resulted in burnout and which was good because that led to me really asking big questions, and having maybe a midlife crisis, if you want to call it that, and led to a healing and waking up and um, enjoying my life so much more now. I'm so glad that I went through that experience before having children, but I honor and respect and have lots of compassion because I know that this can, that kind of awakening and healing can happen at any age. And now when we're thinking about the children, perhaps it can happen in the teens or 20s. But from my perspective, having gone through such a big low and healing and transformation is like, and I actually quoted Johnny Depp, which might be controversial, but I just resonate with some of his childhood. But anyways, his philosophy was like, I'm going to do the opposite of what my parents did. And that was kind of what I was looking for too. And I think that with conscious parenting, with peaceful parenting, coming from, instead of trying to control your children, connecting. So that upgrade in parenting is it's more, you know, it's foundational. So my belief and my hope and my goal is that to, you know, to raise my child in a way that she can keep her, you know, her natural self-esteem, her natural confidence, her natural energy, so that we're not pushing it away and then only for it to come back in her 20s or 30s or 40s and say, wait a minute, you know, that stuff, you know, not to, so she can stay more true to herself for her whole life.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, so it brings up a really interesting thing within me. So there's so many times that I hear uh parents say, like, if only I had a different upbringing, if only I want to give my child what I didn't experience. I want to create differently for them. And I think that that's amazing because it's speaking to us at like we're ready for that. And so I think that life is chosen on a certain level, including our child's life, including our life. That's just a belief of mine. So I think that what speaks to us and what we're ready for, our child is ready for. This is sort of like a co-created relationship. So that's great. But when we look at our past, when we look at, well, I wish that I had a different childhood and maybe my life would have been different if whatever things had been different. It's my understanding, I've seen with my own life that I might not be fully understanding how much that contrast served me. Especially, I think that our generation, like the people who are adults now, that conglomerate of group consciousness that went through that sort of, I think we kind of collectively went through a little bit of a shift where it was transitioning. We're still doing it, transitioning from the old to a new. We're like in the middle, like sort of like shifters. So and our children might get lingering aspects of that too. It'll certainly be multi-generational. But anyways, that offered us so much of a gift because we experienced to a certain degree the shadow of our collective consciousness, and then had the contrasting of like what awakening feels like, what these different beliefs feel like, and through that transformation from a soul level, I think that we were able to integrate belief systems to a way deep degree. Like it was almost chosen by us. And the intensity of what it felt like to have an awakening, like to, oh my gosh, like things are not the way that I was brought up to think. It gives me chills right now. Like that is magnanimous. That all of the inspiration that goes along with us allows us to really dive in deeply to all the things that we're interested in. I have an example to share. So, although I would not parent my children any differently, I'm not trying to like intentionally be unconscious with them so that they learn hard lessons. That is not what it's about. However, we were watching no. Like like but we were watching Gaia. I had turned on this show about um it was like uncovered mysteries or something. It was like looking into our history basically of how humans had evolved and looking at, oh wow, a lot of the data was skewed because who was funding the research, the archaeological research? It was funded by the church. And so the church wanted a certain story, or the state wanted a certain story, and they were only really going to fund stuff that supported that narrative. And they were finding that, hey, it looks like it's way more ancient than we think. There might have been like alien interaction, all this stuff. And the whole show had this energy of like the music was like bum 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 and what about this and oh my god and it could be different, and my kids were sitting there and they were like, I mean, this is really cool and all, but like why is it so dramatic? Like what's the thing? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys never went to regular school and you were never educated on like the old story, so to you this is just like a story, and it's like, why are you being so dramatic? And I feel like that sort of like speaks volumes into like how much do I enjoy the feeling of it being dramatic? How much do I enjoy the intensity of the awakening? Like, that's like, I think that was chosen on a certain level. Anyways, so there's the end of that thought.
That's awesome. I agree, you know, and I think it took me 40 something years to say, you know what, I honor I respect. That was the childhood I needed, you know? So for it to come full circle and then to be doing these calls and talking about this and helping other parents, for me, and I'm sure I would think it is for you, it's a full circle experience. So I don't have any shame or regret or even like wonder what if, because it I'm so passionate about unschooling and about allowing my child to direct her future, her education. I'm so passionate about following our passions and our heart and not just doing something because that's what society tells us. And it's so it's like in my blood, it's in my bones, it's in my story. So I know, that this was for sure my path. It makes complete sense, and then also to to have that full circle and to be healing and healed and to say, you know what, um I'm just going to do it different. I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to show her me following my heart and passion and not always doing what other people say. Having my own inner compass and teaching that rather than what the elder, someone else, external conditions dictate. So yeah, and when it comes to the drama, I mean, it's a story. When it comes to the drama, sometimes I do kind of catch myself and saying, "Am I making this like really dramatic?" But I think deep down we all love stories, and there's some fun music and drama that goes along with that, for sure.
Totally. Someone's messaging me right now asking for the link to our chat. So I'm gonna look that up. You know what though? I don't think there's any shame in creating a exciting story. I don't think there's any shame in like it's like it's okay to be interesting. It's fun. While we're experiencing physical reality, like I'd rather have it be fun. Be
Yeah, and,
interesting.
I know that, like Bashar and some other spiritual teachers. I really love Diana Cooper. She's another angel expert. And they call it the new education system for a new era. Some people will call it the golden age or the golden era. And I can feel it. I feel like we already live part of that. And it makes sense. And then to see, my child and other children just knowing things and not needing school, not needing testing, not needing all of these things to become um, just so intelligent and so driven and so connected is just so beautiful. Um, so,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, love this conversation. And I think it brings to a point that so when I was like early in my spiritual awakening, I think that there was like a lot of talk about, oh, the new age and the new age is coming and that sort of thing. And then when things didn't like life I don't know, there was like a lot of expectation, like, oh, if I am spiritual, like everything's going to turn out the way that I want it to turn out. I'm going to make a ton of money. I'm going to be really abundant. I'm going to be beautiful. Everything's going to be perfect, that sort of thing. And then when that didn't really happen, it was insight into not that there weren't beautiful parts, but when it's not perfect, there's insight into, oh, wait. So a lot of my spiritual discovery was realizing that I was motivated by external attachment still. So there's like two parts to that awakening thing. It's like the first part that a lot of people are attracted by is that sort of childlike wonder is reinstated. Like suddenly we remember that all possibilities exist, that we can, experience whatever, like everything is possible type of the stuff. It's really inspiring. It motivates us to act and involve in life again. That's cool. The other part is a deep acceptance for what is occurring now, a trusting what is arising, a using what is arising for our own awakening. And that actually coincidentally is the path towards the beautiful life that that we want. Anyways, that brings us back to why I brought that up, which is just sort of expecting what an awakened world would look like or what a new age would look like. I think that that almost doesn't interest me anymore, that sort of thing. I'm more like, hey, life, surprise me. Show me what's relevant. Show me what I need to see. Show us all what we need to see. And that is the new age. That is the only age that I want to be a part of.
Yay. Well,
Yeah.
I think that brings it into the present moment, that all of this awesome futuristic stuff is really has to be experienced in the present moment. So that's awesome that you're there. And I can remember also like when I started to read about like 2012 and then 2020, like these dates where like everything was going to change, like you said, but I mean, of course, there has been moments of huge realizations and huge expansion, but there's contraction as well. So I have a chart. I can share it, but it's like I see growth as up and down, but it's trending up. So that's the way I feel is that I'm forever expanding and every up and down brings me to greater expansion. So yeah, for sure. I was thinking something else you said. Uh, I don't know. I can't think of it now. Yeah, well, I think, but yeah, what I did want to say is like, when you do expect that this I'm going to be spiritual and that's going to mean complete abundance of food and friends and relationships and like you said beauty and abundance and spirituality has many faces, many shapes, many lifestyles, and being honest with ourselves and like you said, keep bringing it back to the present moment. That's really where it's at, you know.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I think that my definition of abundance has been very similar to that, and it has shifted over the years. It's like, from a naive perspective, abundance really was okay, so the way that I would feel good about myself and the way that I would dictate whether my beliefs are working, whether my spirituality is working, and whether I'm good enough was physical. It was like physical outcome. If things go the way I think and expect and then intending them to, that's going to give me license to then value myself or to think that I'm doing things right. And life decided to turn that on its head for me for a while, for sure. Like everything that I had expected from a business, thought my life would look like, just totally like turned upside down. And I would have to really divorce from myself and my morality and what I thought was right to continue that path, to think that I could continue that business. Basically, there was stuff that I could not agree with that was going on in that business that I just couldn't do anymore. And so life was like, well, um, after losing everything, that's actually where I started to see, oh my gosh, it's not actually in the physicalness. In the physicalness of life, that's not where my self-esteem needs to come from. Abundance is actually bringing to me all the lessons that I need. Abundance is bringing me circumstances that activate the beliefs that want to be processed within me. And if I do the work there, the experience of joy, self-acceptance, connection, though that is real abundance. And also, along with that realization came this like deep, deep trust in reality, a trust that when I do show up like that, when I do the work in that way, I am things tend to work out in a way. Maybe they're not perfect. Maybe they're not the big house on the hill or whatever we thought that we were intending to create. Um, but they do work out in a way that feels right, man. That's the biggest gift that I could ever ask for. I think that a lot of people when they become, I think we've heard this. I think it's I forget the name of the actor, but he's very known for being into spirituality. But he had said, like, I wish everybody could become rich and famous and get everything that they want. so that they could see that it's really not what makes you happy. And in fact, I think a lot of people would trade that for simply feeling right about your life. There's this thing about just feeling good and okay with the relationships that you're in. Or, oh, Ellie just sent us, Jim Carrey said that. Yes, that's who I was thinking of. Hi, Ellie. um yeah, so I don't think I would trade that for the world. Although in my experience now, that has been the deepest source of self-growth, which is so that's my path right now. That's my like learning is like, oh, I had a business that I thought was going to make me millions of dollars that didn't end up working out. And therefore I live a life that doesn't match up with what I thought I intended to create now. Not saying that that can't be forever. It's just that that wasn't what I thought. And learning that it's what's underneath that is so much more valuable than like the basic stuff that really brings me joy. The simple life, like the art of living a simple life. I don't know. It's been really beautiful for me. So thanks. That was that.
Yay, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I appreciate that, for sure. You know, the white picket fence and things like that, that is, the symbol of abundance and success, for sure. And it's not to say that that won't be in my future, that, but I guess the real gift for me has been, that the kind of like what you said, feeling inner peace, feeling right, and getting being honest with myself, doing the self healing, and then catching a wave of synchronicity where you're like, okay, come on, where it's just so awesome that you're like, you can't make this up. You can't. I don't know who said, one of my psychic, you know, friends or something. You can't make this shit up when you're like the birds and then this and then that. When I get in those waves, and um it's just this is who I am, and this is where I'm meant to be. And learning to be so happy and satisfied with not as much as I thought I would have is so liberating. Especially with this camper stuff. It's like and I'm not lying to myself, or which I have done in the past, but it just genuinely to be happy in a small space with just small, like just simple, cozy, happy, freedom, nature. And it's I think a type of joy and bliss that goes far beyond the attachment to things. It's kind of like simple bliss. Or I don't know that something, or natural. And I think that feeling, well, I know that that feeling is like priceless.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe you could
Totally.
also call that feeling alignment, just being in alignment with who I am, being true to myself, and not so that the feeling of alignment is just great,
Yeah.
and satisfying.
So you know what comes up a lot for people? I can't agree more, first off, but you know what I hear that comes up a lot for people is living within restraints, like financial restraints, or whatever, and just having all this imagining of like, well, my life would be better if I could have this. My child's, that's a big one. My child's life would be better if I had more money, or if I had all the things that I think that I want.
Mm.
And I think that this is a very common experience that is actually offering us such a gift if we use it in the way. So I'm not saying that you never try or you never put yourself out there to create the life that you want, but where is that trying coming from? If it's coming from a sense of trying to escape our lack beliefs, trying to escape our unresolved pain, our unresolved trauma, it's not really healed, and it's this sort of searching, and it doesn't feel good. We're searching for ourselves outside of ourselves. If we can love the life that we have, if we can see, okay, so I think Eckhart Tolle said this. He said, just try on the belief that you chose this and that it's perfect for you. Sometimes that's too far of a stretch for someone to believe right off the bat, to just, it's like, oh, it's too woo woo to me. But maybe if you just experiment with it and see how it works, then it's like, everything changes. It's almost like a very gentle way to rewire the brain. It's like, that's too much for my conditioning, but maybe if I just experiment with it, it feels so good and it actually works. Because when we see from a lens of like, hey, this is for me, this is not here to hurt me, this is here to help me, our nervous system is calmed. We feel like we are in a safe space, and this is taking from traditional like psychology. Now we feel safe when we're in a safe space. We have the ability for logic and reasoning, and all of our higher human functioning comes in, like creativity, inspiration. That's the place that's going to create the beautiful life that we're imagining. If we're still in a state of fear, in a state of restriction, things like that, I'm not saying it's impossible to do anything. It's just harder. So it's like, how are the beliefs serving you? And are we willing to experiment with something that might just work a little better?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you. Um, I think it just comes to seeing the present moment as a gift and being accepting of what's happening, and then even taking it a step further to accept this is where I am. This is where my life is, and this is all here for a reason, even if it is something negative, that it's there to serve us, and that's the game changer. That's the mindset shift from I'm a victim to life to life is actually working for me. And maybe there's a middle ground where it's just okay, what if everything's just neutral? Because I don't think you can always go from fight or flight right into creativity and joy and bliss. I think that there's a good neutral place there, um, to kind of make it a process rather than like, because I think if you are feeling fight or flight and you try to jump right into bliss, you're bypassing. you know
Absolutely.
so if you can kind
Absolutely.
of stop at peace and presence, you can even use mindful techniques. You can get into sense and touching, all of those things to bring you into the present moment, and just make peace with it. I can be at peace now, even though things aren't the way I dreamed, or so to stop kind of at peace, and then from there you can get into those higher brain functions of creativity, and geez, that's where all the third eye and all those metaphysical stuff, which I love all that stuff. But anyways, maybe we should take some time and just see if Ellie or Cynthia want to pop on and add something to this conversation, or talk about something else in our last like 7 minutes or so.
Sure. Yeah, and I see, Cynthia, that you unmuted yourself. And I want to let Ellie know too, because I think it's the first time you've joined this type of call, that you're welcome to ask any questions that you have, or to share whatever comes to your mind if you feel so, or you're welcome to just observe and stay quiet, whatever's cool.
So I was actually starting to type in the chat, but then you said that, so now I will speak. But I'm actually exiting the call because I have a program, a Zoom program that I'm attending that starts at 7. So I had to bow out, which it's actually very interesting. It's local, so it might be more of Andrea's interest, but it's I wanted to mention it. What is it called? The Wellesley is right outside of Boston. I'm trying to find the name here, but basically, they are um, World of Wellesley, I think is the name of the organization. But they're doing, I guess they're talking about documentaries, how they would do that in a couple hours or an hour and a half. I don't know. So maybe they're just touching on some documentaries, but it basically covers, it looks like it's talking about gaining more understanding about historically marginalized groups. And so I think a lot of what they're focusing on is in public school curriculum type of thing, so like in education, what they term as education, which they interpret as schools, and possibly higher education, in college, I don't know. So they're mentioning like the Black/African American Metco experience, which that's other cities might have that. I think there's something specific to Boston. It's I think that was a program, which I don't know if it's still around, but they would basically bus some students into other communities like Wellesley, from the city, kind of whatever. But I could be wrong on that. And then there's another one that focuses on the representation of Muslim Americans in educational systems. And then there's something on Latino and Hispanic community. So there's like 3 different things that they're touching on. I just thought it was interesting. So I'm going to see what comes of it. Maybe I'll throw it. Maybe it'll be relevant to discuss in the next call.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
We'll see.
maybe if anyone's interested, maybe you could add the link in the chat. Is it a free event?
It is free. Yeah, I could put it
Oh,
in. I
cool.
could
That'd
jump
be
in anytime.
awesome. Yeah,
So
thank you.
the thing with these programs sometimes is if you don't register, there's no one sitting at the helm. So like once it starts, if you try to register, there's no one there watching
Okay.
and letting you in, but there might be. So I will throw it in and I will talk to you later.
Okay, cool. Thanks,
Okay.
Cynthia. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have about 3 minutes left. I'm wondering if you had any closing thoughts, Andrea, if anything's coming to your head.
You know, I usually at the end I just like to do announcements. So and whatever we'll post. So it seems like we keep coming back to that same topic, which is like self-healing, you know, the parental healing, which we talk about a lot, you know, that the path and the cycle, the steps. So maybe we can share that again, just like those questions for someone to do the self-reflection. And you know what else I can put is just the link to the self-direction self-directed education, my Facebook, no, not my Facebook, my YouTube playlist. So
Oh,
if
that's a
any,
great idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
so if anyone does want to check out these videos or other ones, yeah, but no, we're back to camping and it's spring now, and it's been spring, as you know, but now it actually is starting to feel like spring in the Northeast. So this is an awesome time to be outside. So you know we're feeling happy and grateful to choosing this lifestyle. Um, and we'll be just out and about and, you know, having fun.
Yay. That's so cool. Oh, Ellie says she'd like to look at the videos. So let's definitely, you know what, Ellie, I'm going to reach out to you and send you personally. I was just on a call with Ellie. Send you personally the link to this Facebook group. Um, and then go from there. And I can send you the link to the YouTube videos as well, but you'll be able to find it like in the Facebook group. Okay, so since we have like 1 minute, I guess, to close up, I love that these calls keep going back to self-healing. I feel like that is the root of everything. And it seems like when we all have these diverse experiences that we're going through, on the surface they look diverse, but underneath they're really bringing up shared core root negative belief systems, thought patterns, conditioning that we can all relate to. So those self-help techniques are so corely relevant. They're so simple, but we need reminding all the time. It's so interesting how simple they are, but how we get lost in the seeming diversity, and we just need reminding. So just briefly to share before we close, the 4 questions that I shared last time that are really helpful when we're struggling with an uncomfortable emotion and we want to get to the root. When we're able to see the thought forms that are arising, the 4 questions are: is this true for me? It's okay if the answer is yes. Just really explore, is this really true for me? Number 2 is, can I absolutely know that it's true? Usually the answer to that is no, just because what can we absolutely know anyway? And then that opens us up to question, how do I react when I think this is true? What does it make me do? How does it make me respond? How does it make me feel? And number 4, how would I act if I couldn't believe that was true, or if I didn't believe that was true? That helps rewire the brain. If possibly we're not able to just adopt a different belief right off the bat, just because it's too fresh, then at least we can imagine ourselves in that situation and say, hey, wait a minute, the real me starts to come out when I don't believe that's true. All of a sudden I start acting loving, connected, helpful, peaceful, inspired, whatever the things are. And we're like, wait a minute, I think there's actually a belief that is more true for me there, because I start acting like who I want to be when I believe differently. So that's really helpful. All right, just as a sum up, I, of course, as always, am offering one-on-one sessions for conscious parenting, and also those who are interested in a radical spiritual awakening, whether you're a parent or not. I offer initial by donation sessions, and you can find me at my website, angelaroseyoung.com, or on Facebook and Instagram at New Paradigm Parenting. So that's about it.
Yay! Yay! Thank you for sharing. Thank you for what you do. I think it's so important to have people helping, parents, non-parents through the process of becoming more of our true selves. So, yay! And Tuesdays are good for now. I'll probably put them up for May, if that's okay with you. I'll post them in the group and.
Cool. Tuesdays work for now. Yeah, I'm not working full-time yet. Working part-time at the school. So
Yeah, and if
I'm not
something
even
comes
sure.
up, yeah, of course, something comes up, we can be flexible. I appreciate all of your time, and we can continue to talk and expand and have fun.
Cool. Yeah, I so appreciate you, Andrea. Thank you. All
Oh, I
right.
appreciate you too. All right, thank you,
Yeah.
everyone, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.